Hey there, garden friends, and welcome back to my channel, Our Country-ish Acre. For those of you that are new around here, my name is Rachel. I'm a gardener that lives in Western Pennsylvania. For reference, we are growing zone 6A. Today I'm in my seed starting room. I'm about to start some of my perennial and hardy annual seeds using the winter sowing method. So winter sowing is quite a bit different from indoor seed starting. So if you are intimidated by indoor seed starting, but do want to add some perennials and hardy annuals to your garden, then this might be a method for you. Winter sowing differs from indoor seed starting because it doesn't require any of this equipment behind me. Really, all you're going to need is a milk jug. This is a water jug, or another container to put some potting soil in. And then this just gets set outside in the snow and the rain and the cold and all that good stuff. So the reason winter sowing method works is because it kind of mimics what those perennial and annual seeds need in nature in order to get growing. So they need a period of cold, which is called cold stratification. So by planting those kinds of seeds up now and putting them outside, you're giving them that environment that they need. Now, many of these seeds you probably could start indoors if you really wanted to. However, it would require some additional steps, and in my opinion, those just aren't worth it because the winter sowing method is so easy, and then I can focus my time and energy on babying other seedlings that do really require an indoor environment in order to get started. Before we dive in, I thought you might be interested in seeing the varieties that I will be sowing today. These are not all of the seeds that I will be starting via the winter sowing method. I do like to try and pace myself because it gives me something to do throughout this cold, snowy month. So if I can prolong that a little bit, I do. But the seeds I will be starting today, I'm going to do 3 different type of larkspur, fancy smoky eyes, misty lavender, and QIS lilac. So those are all kind of ranging in the purple colors. I do find myself drawn to like purples and pinks in the garden, so those are the 3 that I will be sowing today. And then I am going to be sowing some Baptisia, which is more commonly known as like blue false indigo. I do have some of this already in my garden. I purchased it from a local nursery last year. They were pretty expensive, so I do want to try to start these from seed this year myself, just because that would save me a ton of money. I think it was almost like $9 or $10 for a pot that was slightly smaller than a gallon. So that's pretty, that's a decent amount of money that I could be saving if this works out. So let's get into it. For winter sowing, you will need a container of some sort. So a lot of people use milk jugs. I have a lot of these distilled water containers from doing sourdough baking. I do also have a couple of these smaller half-gallon milk jugs, but it doesn't have to be this type of container. I've seen people use salad containers. I am worried that I'm not going to have enough like jug type containers, so I am thinking I might try to start some seeds in like a red Solo cup and kind of put maybe plastic wrap or something over the top of it to kind of simulate that greenhouse environment. But we'll see. It's all just an experiment in the end. But the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have a clean container, and then I'm just going to take the label off this. Okay. And then you don't need the caps on any of your containers. You actually want some air to be able to get in there, like for ventilation. And you also want any rain or snow or precipitation to get in there and keep your potting mix nice and moist. So get rid of your caps. And then the next thing you're going to do is we're going to kind of cut a line across this, but we're going to leave a little section here to act as a hinge. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to take my drill and I'm going to drill a hole and then I'm going to cut it. You could probably just stab it with scissors if you wanted, but I find that this works a little bit better for me to just get it started. And then just a pro tip, if you are going to drill into a plastic container, go very slowly, just for safety reasons. So now that I have a little hole there, I can just take these are kitchen shears, so they are a little bit stronger than just your average scissors. These are specifically dedicated to gardening. I do have an actual set of kitchen shears up there, but they stay in the kitchen. So, okay. Then I'm just going to cut up this way. Okay. And then this makes a hinge. Okay. So the next thing that your container needs is drainage. You want to make sure that you either drill or stab or, somehow put drainage holes in the bottom of your container. I am going to just use my drill and again go slowly for each of those to drill all those holes. Okay, so I've got the holes drilled in the bottom of this container. I have its hinge nicely made. So I'm just going to do the next 3 containers here and then we'll pick back up when I get that finished. So I've got all of my jugs prepared. The next thing that I like to do, just because I have clean hands right now, is to write out my labels. I prefer these plastic labels and then I just use a Sharpie. I know a lot of people do just write the name of whatever they've sown on the outside. I prefer using a label just because then I can reuse the containers without having to worry about what labels I wrote on there for the previous year. So I'm just going to get started and write these out. And then do always make sure that you put the date that you've sown it, just to get in the habit of doing that. All right, so I've got my labels, I've got my seeds. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. Now I'm just gonna take a tray to keep my table a little bit cleaner. And then the next step is to take some wet potting soil. And you don't want it to be like sopping wet, just moist is good enough. But then you're just going to fill your container with a couple inches of potting soil. I am using an all-purpose mix by ProMix. Okay. And then you're going to take your label. Put it in there. Try to get as much dirt off my hands as I can. Okay. And then take your seeds, and you always want to sow the seeds according to the instructions on the packet. So pay attention if it calls for light or if it needs darkness. A lot of seeds don't mind, but there are some that do. So you want to just make sure that you're sowing according to what the seed packet says. So for larkspur, it does say on here that darkness is required for germination. So I'm going to just kind of sprinkle these in here and then I'm going to cover it up with soil. I'm just kind of sprinkling it, almost like I'm seasoning it with salt. It kind of reminds me of that. I don't want to overcrowd this, so that's probably good enough. And then I did drop one right there, so I'll put that in there. Okay, so that one's done. I'm going to cover it up with some soil. Not too much, but I do want to make sure that it is, nothing's peeking out here. And then just kind of tamp it down just a little bit. You don't want it to be compacted, but just kind of press it down. And then I always take, no matter what seeds I'm sowing, I always take my spray bottle and just kind of mist the top. Okay. And then while my hands are dirty, I am going to do the next 3, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to finish off the container. Okay, so I've got my jugs all planted up. The next thing I need to do is take either some heavy duty painter's tape or duct tape, and then I just want to seal off the part that I cut. Okay. And then just for added measure, I'm going to press it all there and make sure that we're good there. And then the next thing that we'll need to do is put these outside in an area that is exposed to precipitation. So you don't want to have it like up next to your house sheltered. You kind of want it out in the open, and you do want it to be somewhere that gets some sun, and then like I said, that also gets precipitation and is exposed to the elements. Okay, so I've got these all taped up. I'm going to just put these guys in this little bin here. And then I will see you guys outside. So it is very cold out here. As you can see, I'm surrounded by snow, but this is going to be perfect for those little plant babies, and it is really truly just what they need. But all I'm going to do is take these containers, kind of hard to do one-handed, and then they love snow. So anytime it snows from here on out, I might just put a little bit in the top of the container. And then put this one here. All right. And this is also a good tip too if you have any pots that are overwintering in your garage. You could just take some snow out whenever you have snow and just tuck it in there for them. So I just made it back indoors. It is very chilly out there, but that is pretty much it for winter sowing. I won't have to do anything with those jugs until come probably early spring. If we stop getting a whole bunch of snow or don't get a lot of rain, then I might try to add some water in there if the soil looks dry, but for the most part, nature should take care of the rest. I would love to hear in the comments below if you've tried out winter sowing before, or if this is new to you and something that has inspired you to maybe give it a shot. I love hearing all about other people's gardens, so please feel free to chat below. And I will be doing some updates on how the jugs are doing, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. And then until next time, friends.